In 2008, someone posted a story to a Japanese message board called 2channel, the same kind of anonymous forum where Slender Man would be born a year later. The post was framed as true, first person, a summer vacation, a grandparent's house in the countryside, a boy who looked up from the veranda one evening and saw something above the garden fence that shouldn't have been there. A white hat, wide-brimmed, floating too high off the ground. Then the woman underneath it.
8 feet tall, some say closer to 8.5.
Thin as a stalk of bamboo, skin the color of paper. A white sundress hanging off a frame that had no business standing that tall in a Japanese backyard. And a sound, low, rhythmic, almost gentle. Po, po, po. The post spread. It got copied, translated, retold on Reddit, narrated on YouTube, whispered about on TikTok. Today they call her Hasshaku-sama, the 8-foot-tall woman. And according to the legend, she's still doing exactly what she did in that first post. She picks a child. She watches. And once she's made her choice, the people who love that child have almost no time left to save them. This is the story of what happens after she chooses you.
You're 11 years old, and you've made this trip every summer for as long as you can remember.
The train out from the city gets emptier the further it goes, until it's just rice paddies sliding past the window and telephone poles ticking by like a metronome. Your grandmother's always waiting at the little station, always in the same faded sun hat, always saying you've gotten taller since last year, even when you haven't. Her house sits at the edge of the village, the kind of place where the rooms still smell like tatami and old wood smoke, where the garden runs wild along a low wooden fence, and where at night the dark is so complete it feels like a physical thing pressing against the windows. You love it here. You've never once been afraid of it.
Until the evening, you're sitting out on the veranda, waiting for dinner,
watching fireflies stitch light through the humid air. And you hear it for the first time. Po, po, po. Slow, even, like something knocking on the inside of a drum. You look up. Above the fence line, where the top rail sits maybe 5 feet off the ground, there's a hat. White, wide-brimmed, drifting past at a height no hat has any right to be at, unless the person wearing it is enormous. You catch a glimpse of white fabric beneath it. A dress, moving slow, unhurried, gliding along the far side of the fence like it's simply out for an evening walk. There are no footsteps that you can hear, no rustling in the tall grass beyond the fence, just the shape of her, sailing past in the failing light, like something from the wrong kind of dream. You don't scream. You're not even sure, yet, that you should be scared. You're 11, and the world's still mostly made of things that have explanations. So when your grandmother calls you in for dinner, you mention it, almost as an afterthought, between bites of rice. There was a really tall lady walking by the fence tonight. She had a big white hat, and she was making this weird sound, like po, po, po. You expect her to laugh, or ask what you mean, or tell you it was probably a scarecrow catching a strange light. Instead, your grandmother's chopsticks stop halfway to her mouth. The color leaves her face so fast it's like watching a light switch off. Her hand comes up and presses flat against her lips. She doesn't say anything for a long moment, long enough that the silence itself starts to feel wrong, starts to feel like the actual scary thing, worse than any tall woman in a hat. Your grandfather, at the other end of the table, sets down his cup. His face has gone hard and grave in a way you've never seen on him before. Not angry, something closer to fear wearing the shape of authority.
He stands, crosses the room in 3 steps, and grips your arm. Not gently. "Show me," he says. "Where? Exactly where?" That's the moment you understand. Not from the hat, not from the woman, not from the sound. From this. From the fact that 2 adults who've never been frightened of anything in your presence are suddenly, unmistakably, terrified. Your grandmother won't let you go back outside. She pulls the shutters closed herself, hands trembling slightly on the latch. And it's the trembling that scares you more than anything. Grandmothers are supposed to be the steady ones. An hour later, an old man from the village arrives. You've never met him before, but your grandmother greets him like someone she's needed for a long time and hoped never to need again. The man carries a cloth bag. Inside it, salt, folded paper talismans, a small carved figure of Jizo, the protector of children, worn smooth from age and years of careful hands. He sits across from you at the table and asks you to describe exactly what you saw. The hat, the height, the sound. You tell him again, "Po, po, po," and watch his face tighten with each syllable, like you're confirming something he was praying you'd get wrong. "Hasshaku-sama," he finally says. The name means nothing to you. It clearly means everything to the adults in the room. He explains it plainly, without drama, which somehow makes it worse than if he'd screamed it. "There's a woman," he says, though woman may not be the right word for what she really is, who stands roughly 8 shaku tall, something close to 8 feet, who wears white, who walks the edges of villages like this one, and who sometimes, for reasons no one's ever been able to explain, takes a liking to a child. Once she's taken that liking, he says, the child becomes hers to claim. Nobody in the room can tell you exactly how long you have. Some say days. Some say it could stretch longer, weeks even, while she circles closer and closer. The uncertainty is its own kind of horror. No clean countdown, no clock to watch, just the awful knowledge that somewhere out past the fence, she's deciding when and not whether. They move you to the smallest room in the house, the one that used to be a storage room, windowless on one side with a single sliding door that faces the hallway instead of the yard. Salt goes down in each corner, poured in careful lines. The Jizo statue's placed in the center of the room, facing the door, like a small stone sentry. Paper talismans are taped above the doorframe and along the window seam, brushed with characters you can't read. "You do not open the window," your grandmother tells you, her voice steadier now that there's something to do. "You do not step outside this room. If you need anything." She sets a covered bucket in the corner, and you understand, with a lurch of your stomach, that she means for you not to leave even for that. "Not even to look?" you ask. "Especially not to look," the elder says. "If she comes near the house tonight, you'll hear her. The sound might get closer. It might sound like someone you know, calling your name. It will not be them." That detail lodges itself under your skin more than anything else so far. The idea that the voice outside your door, later, might sound like your grandmother's voice, might sound like your own mother calling from the city, and that you're supposed to sit there in the dark and not answer it. Night falls the way it always does in the countryside, total and enormous. You sit with your back against the wall, knees to your chest, listening to the low murmur of chanting outside your door, the elder's voice rising and falling in a rhythm that almost drowns out the thought of what might be circling the house. Hours in, you hear it. Faint, far off, past the fence, past the garden. Po, po, po. Closer than before. You don't move. You don't look.
You press your palm flat against the little Jizo statue the way your grandmother told you to, and you wait. And somewhere outside, the chanting gets louder, more urgent, and you realize the elders heard it too. The night stretches on in a way that makes your sense of time collapse entirely. At some point, the po-po-po sound seems to circle the house itself, moving along the outside wall, pausing. You swear it pauses right outside the sealed window before drifting on toward the garden again. At some point, you hear your name, soft, in a voice that has the shape of your grandmother's voice, but none of its warmth, calling from just beyond the glass. You remember what the elder told you. You don't answer. Somewhere before dawn, the men of the house take over. Your grandfather and an uncle who arrived sometime in the night bracket you between them and walk you out to a waiting car, telling you to keep your eyes shut, to hold the talisman against your chest, to not open your eyes no matter what you hear on the drive. You feel the car move. You feel turns, a long stretch of gravel, gears shifting. You hear your grandfather's voice, tight and low, telling the driver to keep going, don't stop, don't look back. You're taken to a shrine, a small stone Jizo statue at a crossroads outside the village, weathered by generations of hands and prayers. The kind of quiet roadside marker you'd never have looked at twice before tonight. The elder chants there while your grandfather holds your shoulders and keeps your eyes covered with his own palm, rough and warm against your face, until he tells him it's done. When you're finally allowed to open your eyes, it's full daylight. The kind of ordinary, overexposed summer morning that makes the entire night feel like something you invented. The road's empty. The fields beyond the crossroads are bright with heat. Cicadas are screaming in the tree line. A truck rumbles past without slowing. Nothing about the world looks like it could contain what you lived through in that windowless room. Nobody treats it that way, though. Your grandmother hugs you longer than she ever has. Your grandfather doesn't let go of your hand the whole walk back inside. And when, years later, you ask about coming to stay again the following summer, the visit's shorter than it used to be. Cut down, quietly, permanently, without anyone ever explaining exactly why. As if fewer nights in that house means fewer chances for a hat to drift past the fence line again. Nobody can tell you, even now, whether Hasshaku-sama was ever real in any way you could prove. There's no photograph, no body, no official record, just a single anonymous post from 2008, or maybe earlier, on a forum built for exactly this kind of story. And thousands of retellings since, each one changing the names, the details, the ending, while keeping the same bones intact. A child, a hat above a fence, a sound like knocking, and the terrible moment an adult's face goes pale. Maybe that's the most unsettling part of her. She was never given an origin. Nobody wrote down why she does what she does, or where she comes from, or what happens to the children she takes. The story just ends where the ritual ends. A sealed room, a chant in the dark, a shrine at a crossroads. And everything past that point is silence. Some versions don't even let you keep that ending. In one telling, years after the grandfather dies, the protagonist gets a phone call. The old shrine that sealed her away has been torn down, and the road that used to lead to it now runs straight back toward the family home. If that part's true, the story never actually finished. It just went quiet for a while. There are a lot more corners of this world worth stepping into. Subscribe, because we're only getting started.